Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DiMatteis. Quick reminder to download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available to get the full ProBox TV experience, which includes the insights of our great world champions. We have Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, Puerto Rico's Xander Zayas, fresh off of his unanimous decision victory, a 100-90 sweep of Damian Sosa Friday night at MSG Theater, is saying that he is ready for his next fight to come against a top 5 super welterweight at 154. Now, the undefeated Boricua said after his fight, who was ever in the top 5. Now I feel like I'm ready. Before I thought I was, but tonight I showed everyone that I'm ready for the elite names. All right, Chris, we know Zayas is undefeated, but maybe doesn't have quite the best of resumes in terms of opposition. Is he ready for a top 5 fighter in this very deep division?
Well, I believe that last performance against Damian Sosa was a sneaky good performance because Damian Sosa is a guy who fought in our air, scored an upset in our air, knew about this fight, came prepared, knew that Xander Zayas was going to be his next opponent months ago. I spoke to his team about it. Very, very crafty guy, big for the weight class, strong. Zayas dominated, controlled from opening bell to the end, looked fantastic. Best performance I've seen him thus far. And I think we're starting to see what Zayas is. He's not a puncher. He's not a knockout guy. He's not a single shot KO artist like we might have thought early on, where he was blowing some guys out. He's a boxer. He's a combination puncher. He's a volume puncher. He's a good boxer. He's exciting though. He's not just a cutie boxer who's going to move around the ring and be defensive. He's busy with his left hand. He throws good, hard body shots. So I think he's still developing his style, and the fan base is starting to realize that. I understand where he's coming from, man. He's pushing for the big fights. The issue is, at 22 years of age and at 154 pounds, this weight class is littered with studs. The top 5 in this weight class, they're all world champion level guys. And I'm not quite sure at 22 years of age we want to throw him into that deep end just yet. I think he still has some more development to do. George, you mentioned his resume thus far. He hasn't fought a lot of guys at 54 who are true 54-pounders. Damian Sosa was, absolutely. Teixeira is a former world champion at 154, absolutely. But prior to that, there's a lot of blown-up welterweights, a lot of much smaller guys. So, I think that he probably does need a little more development. And from what it looks like, from the top ranks perspective, because I've said this on past shows, Xander's Puerto Rican. You have an opportunity. We see them looking at this graphic. We see the photo from that fight. Those lights in the background, that's MSG, baby. That's New York City. That is a Puerto Rican haven come June. They are looking for their next Puerto Rican star to headlight those MSG cards. That looks to be Xander Zayas. So do we want to throw him right into a big fight, pulling him away from that opportunity? I don't think it's going to happen quite yet. But I understand where he's coming from. He's chomping at the bit to be that next guy, to get that title shot. But I think we're going to see a little more development out of him before we see him in one of those big fights with top 5 154-pounders.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky here. Zayas is a solid guy. He's a stud himself, but you're in a weight class that's full of studs. Also, the politics aren't things that are exclusive to PBC and Canelo, which a lot of times we end up discussing that on the show, is the politics of who you're fighting, who you're not going to fight. You make matches accordingly. It's also in Top Rank too. So Top Rank is not going to match Xander with the dangerous studs of the 154-pound division right now, because none of them are with Top Rank, so you're not going to get your stud, put him at risk against a stud from somebody else's stable. So I think, a little bit like Terrence Crawford, Xander may find himself locked out of the big 154-pound mix, because Top Rank does not want to risk, is not going to want to risk their stud against the stud of another company, especially if he goes in as an underdog, which, as good as Xander is, he'd probably go in as an underdog against the majority of those high-level studs at 154 pounds. And that goes to show you just the depth of this weight class, because Xander, like I said, is a very good fighter. If Xander was at 147, we'd be excited about, that kind of fresh blood, hungry, top-level type of young guy being in that weight class. But at 154, it's a bit different. There's a ton of dynamite there. There's a ton of landmines you're stepping in over there. So I don't think they're in a rush. Champ, you made a great point about the Puerto Rican Day Parade. You want to develop this kid as a guy who's going to headline those big fights. But how far is he from there? I don't even know if he's in the position to be able to headline a major event where people get so excited about headlining on the Puerto Rican Day Parade Eve. You know, I remember Cotto, the first time he did the Puerto Rican Day Parade Eve fight, he fought Muhammad Abdullayev, the guy who had beaten him at the Olympic Games. So it was that kind of matchup where you're like, okay, you know what, this guy beat Cotto in the Olympic Games. This is a revenge or repeat type of fight. So you were already in that high-level situation, and Cotto, of course, lived up to the expectation. He fought me, then he fought Zab Judah. So the yearly thing, it was anticipated fights, and Cotto lived up to it and became a bona fide star because of that Puerto Rican Day Parade Eve. I don't know that Xander, because the weight class is so tough, can you put him in with the kind of matchup, the kind of opponent by this Puerto Rican Day Parade coming up in next June? Can you put him in with, can you see Xander being put in with the kind of opponent that you're thinking like, whoa, I don't know about this fight. This is a nasty, nasty fight.
In the small room, I could.
In the small room,
I can see
but
small
then
room.
In the small room, you're not going to get that kind of opponent. You're going to get more like, I don't know, your Melkuzians or whatever, or maybe, or not even, that guy's not even a 154, right? But I don't know, you're going to get that level of guy, possibly. I can't see you winding up with the Virgil Ortizes or the Tim Zoos or even, I don't know.
But I think, Champ, I think you're shadowing my point that the development of him is still ongoing.
Yeah.
So you don't want to, even this next Puerto Rican Day Parade in June, they're not going to throw him in with somebody. And they're not going to risk it before that. They got a whole nother year before the next Puerto Rican Day event for him to come in. An interesting caveat, though, about Top Rank is they got Vito Melenicki. That's a recent signing. 54-pounder, young. That turns into one of those prospect versus prospect fights where somebody goes up and someone goes down.
You're thinking, champ. You got your thinking hat on. You know what? That's the one.
That's a good fight.
Vito, this is like.
And Vito's a Jersey. Vito's a Jersey guy.
Vito's a Jersey guy.
Yeah.
I'm getting signs of me versus Cotto. Yeah. You know, it's like you get the
put that
Puerto
in the
Rican
small
star.
room?
You get the local Northeast guy. You put that. Yeah. You know what? That's a small room fight for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's a good one. It's a good fight.
And if Melenicki can look a bit impressive, I don't know if he was super impressive in his last fight, right?
Two fights ago, he looked great. Last fight, not great.
So if Melenicki can build some momentum, yeah, man. So you got between now and June. Xander's already got the momentum. That's a terrific win he had. I thought he looked great in a sneaky, tough fight. I agree with you. If Vito can build some momentum here, I think that's your fight. You know what? That's the one we're looking at, guys. Zayas versus Melenicki. Next June, Puerto Rican Day Parade Eve. It makes sense. Vito is very popular in the Northeast. Xander, super popular with the Puerto Ricans, and it's only going to continue to grow. Yeah. All right. That's it. We're done with this conversation.
That's the consensus
it's been decided.
right there.
That's it.
That's the consensus. Vito Melenicki Jr.
That's what I love about these shows. When we start talking about this, I'm thinking like, which direction is this going to go here, you know? And now, that's it. It's been decided.
We got it.
We're gonna get,
there you go.
As long as Vito can look impressive on the way to June, we're going to have Xander versus Vito in June. That's what I think. That's my prediction. Actually, it's a champ's prediction, but I'm going to second that.
Yeah, by the way, Vito Melenicki Jr., 4th ranked in the WBA, and Xander Zayas is outside of the top. Xander Zayas is outside the top 15 by the WBA.
Yeah, but that's going to change by June.
That could be changed.
That'll change by next week.
A couple of phone calls, we'll be all good.
Oh, okay.
Xander's good enough to be in the top, 15 of all those weight classes. Good.
Yeah, he's already in the top 10 in the WBO, WBC, and IBF. So that'll change with the WBA. I like that suggestion there. Melenicki and Xander Zayas, the next fight. 2 rising young talents at 154. And of course, we will keep you up to date with the career of Xander Zayas and Melenicki as well, depending on how well he fights in his upcoming fights here on Top Stories. I'd like to remind you to scan the QR code, like and subscribe, comment. Of course, leave those super chats as well on our YouTube channel. And don't forget, the best live fight series in all of boxing that you can watch on the ProBox TV app is Wednesday Night Fights, another edition coming up October 9th here on your boxing channel. I'm George DeMatteis, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, October 9th. Chris, Primetime Colbert, and Omar Super Salcido step into the ring for what is sure to be a barn burner. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.